Hi, welcome to Intuitive Insights. I am Megan, your host, your intuitive guide and creativity coach. And today I have with me my friend, Emily Tatomer. I got it right. I was saying it wrong. Is that right? Is that
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
Emily is a Hellenistic astrologer, a former modern dancer, and a mother of three. Welcome, Emily. How are you?
I'm pretty well. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes.
Exciting to be here.
So let's start the gate. I said Hellenistic astrologer.
Yes.
I know what it is because that's how I found you. But for those who don't know what Hellenistic astrologer is, can you just give a little explanation of that?
Yes. So Hellenistic astrology is traditional astrology. It's one of the first forms of horoscopic astrology that came about a couple of thousand years ago from Mesopotamia and ancient Greece. And it focuses on, there are a couple of things that tend to be part of Hellenistic astrology, which is whole sign houses and, traditional rulerships, a big focus on the traditional 7 planets that were visible to the naked eye before we had modern technology to discover Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. It tends to be a little bit more predictive in nature than some modern psychological astrology. But it certainly doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But modern psychological astrology or other like evolutionary astrology, those kinds of things are focused a little bit more on just the individual with the chart. Whereas Hellenistic astrology, you can find, yes, the individual, their personality, their psyche, all of that in the chart, but you also find the chart holder's partner and their job and their cousins. And so it's a little bit more
like you find their world versus
you find their whole world, as opposed to just focusing on it as like looking at the chart as a blueprint for that individual and all the different aspects of their own self and psychology.
Yeah.
You can find that in Hellenistic astrology, but you also find other and all aspects potentially of their life, their lived experience.
I think so. The person we both have, I'm just new at studying this, and you've studied with Adam from Nightlight, and
Yes.
what he talks about a lot is the like it's a mandala, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you're seeing the kind of all different angles. And when he says that, I know a mandala is like, it's a picture that you know, like a yantra or something that you use for meditation purposes, and it draws you in and kind of takes your mind on a journey. But I always see it as like, oh, my kid has one of them, but it's like that. Maybe your kids have them too, but it's like that ball that it's kind of like that. It's almost like, it's like a 3D 360 shape. And that's how I see it when he says mandala.
Yeah.
It's literally like all the different aspects, like from all the different, pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, I think he often uses the phrase turning of the jewel, like
That's the one I like that,
the jewel and turning, and you can see the different facets, just like a diamond would be cut with different facets. And it's a similar idea exactly as the mandala. And
So when you were drawn to Hellenistic astrology, were you prior, were you interested in astrology in a different vein, or did you come straight into Hellenistic?
I came in, I think, like so many people, in the very early days of the pandemic, when I was like, I need answers to life's big questions. And a friend of mine sent me a podcast, a weekly weather podcast. I don't know if you've heard of the astrologer Anne Ortley. And she's not Hellenistic. She's very well trained, but she's a modern astrologer. She uses, Placidus house system and all of that.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But a friend of mine who grew up with astrology just happened to send me, it must have been like March 30th, like very early days of the pandemic.
Yes.
She sent me she just said, here, listen to this. I think you'll like it. And I had always been kind of like interested in astrology, but it just, like, I had books when I was a teenager, on astrology and everything, but it never was I don't know. It was just the right moment in time that I listened to that. And I just kind of, as they say, very cliched, fell down the rabbit hole or got bit by the bug. And so I was very eclectically just self-taught for a couple of years, where I was trying on all sorts of, like, listening to podcasts, and I joined, like astrology community groups, Astrology Hub. I would definitely credit them as helping me kind of get my feet wet in this. And they're a group that has a different monthly guide every month, where they bring in a different astrologer, and it's part of what they call their inner circle. It's like a membership community.
Yeah.
And so they have all different astrologers coming in and teaching master classes, and then leading like a monthly full moon and new moon ceremony and workshop. And so that was, after I think maybe 5 or 6 months into my exploration of astrology, I joined Astrology Hub's Inner Circle. And so that exposed me to a lot of different types of astrology and teachers. And then, I know you weren't really asking for my life story, but
no, that's fine. Yeah, this is great.
Then in the fall, in September of 2021, after I'd been just kind of, again, self-taught for about a year and a half, I had been reading that book, The Artist's Way. Have you read that book? It's from like the 90s.
I've Julia Cameron. Yes, I've read it. I've done it like 7 times.
Yeah.
And yes, I love it. Yes.
I was right in the middle of reading that book. And I got an email from the astrologer, Bronwyn Simons, who actually gave me my first professional reading in the fall of 2020. And I found her through Astrology Hub. But I got an email because I was on her mailing list that said, have you been interested in becoming a professional astrologer? I'm putting together this, launching this 12-week course called a Professional Astrologer Mastermind, where it was not teaching astrology, like not teaching the technique of astrology, but it was a small group coming together and learning how to actually make a profession out of it, like how to apply astrology into becoming professional. And it was a total whim. I had just been reading the section in The Artist's Way about, like, sometimes a door will just open, or a window will, you'll feel something open.
Yep.
And I signed up for it literally the morning before the first meeting in that course. And totally putting the cart before the horse, because I had no formal education at that point. So why did I think I could become a professional? But I joined.
You knew. Yeah.
And it really was like intuitively, I knew that I needed to do this. And that 12-week course kind of changed my life. It was a small group of, I think there were about 11 or 12 of us, all women.
Yeah.
And it was just, there was the chemistry between that group, and with Bronwyn is very adept at leading. She's like a mama bear. She just leads these groups so beautifully. And I met a couple of very close friends that I think will be like lifelong good friends, just instant connection with them, who I still see quite regularly over Zoom. Anyway, that was 12 weeks, and it was wonderful. After it was over, we continued to see each other as a group once a month just to get together. But then I said, okay, now I've done this, and now I actually need to go back and start formally educating myself. And I had seen a couple of Adam's YouTube videos. I had a friend who was currently in his year 1 program. And I liked his style, like something that he said in one of his videos, just actually got me teary. Some aspect of how he incorporates such a rich spirituality in his more technical astrological craft. There's such a spiritualness to it. And I just decided to sign up so it would have been June of 22 that I started his year 1 class. And then I just went all the way through because I loved his teaching.
Yeah.
So completed 3 years worth of his coursework and some, masterclass series and he has lots of offerings. So yeah.
No, he's wonderful. And I was, I'm in the year 1 now and I'm very overwhelmed and it's wonderful. But that's how we met, because I was like, help me unpack this. I don't understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do love how he pulls spirituality into it. But I also, I like to know the why so I can make up my own decisions, because I was finding, like you, I was listening to a lot of different podcasts, Vedic, Adam, Hellenistic, evolutionary. I was listening to all these different types of astrologers, a lot of them before the election, but I was realizing that it was giving me more anxiety than I knew that its purpose was, what I mean? Like, and I was like, I want to know why people are coming to the conclusions they're coming to. Like, I want to be able to look and see because to me, that's time, energy, and we are energetic beings. So like, why not know what's best to flow with and when not to flow and all those things.
Yeah.
So, so I do love that Hellenistic is kind of the roots of all modern astrology. So it kind of, in his teaching, he does show us does teach, where this came from, why this is the way, it's not just assuming and then moving forward. Because that's and,
and that allows so much for an innate understanding and the ability to it's so much easier to delineate something when you do know the why, because otherwise, if you're just focused on like memorizing keywords, so this planet means these things and this sign means these things, and it's like too much information and data that you have to kind of like sift through.
And then where goes the intuition?
Yes, right? Exactly. Yeah. And then the intuition gets overwhelmed. But if you go back to look at like exactly that, the why of this system, and it's very beautiful and elegant and simple and intricate at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you don't need to remember the key words, because you have an innate understanding of the like initial, the root. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's also not like most things are now, which is it's not transient, because it's been around for thousands of years and it still rings true.
Yes.
So that brings me, I kind of jumped the gate because I was very excited to talk about astrology.
Yeah.
But I have my 2 questions
to talk about astrology.
which I'm sure we'll talk more about, is what is intuition to you? How do you define it?
I think it's very different for everyone. And also I think we all possess some amount of intuition. I think it's just, one person said to me once that they think of intuition, for me particularly, as like a womb knowing. And that resonated for me. It doesn't have to, obviously, we don't all have wombs. But for me,
all came from one.
Yeah, true. Exactly. And so there's something about like it's a knowing, it's a cognizance of some kind. And that can come in all different forms, obviously, for different people. But it's just this like, this felt sense of knowing that I guess in the most simple definition, I would call it that. And like, again, and I think that womb piece is exactly that. We all come from one, we all begin there. There's some like massive enigmatic intelligence in creation, that we all have the ability to connect to at times and in ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And you spoke a little bit about how you use it in your life. I mean, obviously the astrology path kind of came to you into like to me, I call intuition the voice of the soul, right?
Yes.
So your soul was like, do this, you
Yes.
need to do this now, So you obviously listen to that, but how else do you use it? Like, even as a mom, how do you use it in your, like how do you use intuition in your life,
I think well, one, I have to admit that it's been a process for me to begin to trust my intuition. I think that I've, up until very recently in my life, tended to dismiss it or, just not give it as much credit as it deserves. So I will admit that first and foremost. But I think as I'm gradually being more and more willing to trust it, I think I am just relaxing into it more. And if I get some kind of feeling of like a nudge or I'm just learning to kind of trust it. It's one way that I think I'm using it is allowing space and time for like if I want something to happen, but I'm getting a sense like now is not the time. I'm learning to accept that better and have more grace around like, okay, now is not the time. Like I'm getting that clear sense that like, so don't push for something if now is not the time. I think it's interesting with my kids. It's interesting that you ask that because I don't even know. I think I just, it's like, I have, not to go back to the astrology, but I have a moon in Cancer, which is the sign of the moon. It's a very motherly sign to have your moon in. And it's in a place in my chart that is associated with children. So I have this very motherly moon. And I think I'm not even totally aware of it, but I think I'm very connected intuitively and with that womb sense of knowing to my kids. So it's like almost difficult for me to describe how I might use it with them. I think I just naturally kind of work on this river of intuition with them and their emotions. That has been one thing that's been my kids have been some of my greatest teachers in astrology. It's been like amazing. Yeah. And then certainly in my work, I'm beginning to use more and more intuition with, even just preparing for clients. Like when I'm preparing to meet with a client, I'm just beginning to, again, it's a slow acceptance and trust of beginning to feel like, okay, this is something that's jumping out about the chart. Like that's what we need, that we're going to need to talk about, or this is just starting to get a sense of like, this is what their mood might be like. And I'm going to try to meet them here in this when we're talking. One time I had a client that I was preparing for, and they had a question about a certain thing. So I was looking at this one technique that would, speak to that, what their question was about. And I looked at it and I was just like, this is not saying anything to me. This is not saying anything to me. And I realized that I had drawn up the wrong chart. And once I switched it, it was like it jumped out, like it turned into color. I was like, oh, okay, this
makes sense.
In ways like that, where it's like, okay, I'm trusting, like something isn't right about this. It's like dull. It's not showing up. It's not speaking to me. And then recognizing, okay, because something about that is wrong. And then figuring out what the right thing is. And it shows up. It's like vibrant. It's saying something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ways like that. Yeah.
Well, even with my chart, so I have a very interesting birth story. And we talked a little bit about the Neptunianness of it all.
Yeah.
But so I don't know what time I was born. I was born in the bathroom in the sack, 6 weeks early with the cord wrapped around my neck, and my dad had to deliver me. So they didn't know what time it was. All I had to go on was, the sun was coming up as my dad was following the ambulance to the hospital. Mm-hmm. So I just assumed it was like 6:15 because the sun rises around 7:15 in January. But I had something very traumatic happen to me recently. So when we started talking, you're like, well, it could be this as far as rising sign, which kind of changes everything, the whole picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but nobody else had asked me that before, And so, and I had maybe a couple of readings, nothing in depth, but, so then I looked at both of them and I was like, oh, it could go either way, but I feel like it's more, Sag rising. Mm-hmm. And then I remember I had like a little voice tell her about the physical thing that just happened.
Yeah.
And then I did. And then that actually gave you a chunk of information to go back. And now I have an actual birth time. I mean, it's a
what we think.
But it feels pretty right. I mean, it's, especially because that incident was so out of left field.
Yeah.
What was it? It was on a note of fate, right? Or something.
Yes. Like it was something like that. I don't remember exactly the details, but there was something that was definitely happening on an important point. If you had been born at that moment.
Yes.
It was probably either a node or I think it was a node, maybe.
I think it was a node of fate.
Yeah.
But your intuition kind of guided you to just play around with that and to find that. And it wasn't like, I'm hoping you didn't have to spend hours on that.
No, yeah.
That's like, it wasn't that far off. But
no.
6:08 to 6:15 isn't that big of a jump, but
yeah.
But yeah, your intuition guided you there, and it lined everything up in a very like obvious way, which is really cool, I thought.
Yeah. It is cool. And it's something that, and we've talked before, but something that, again, over the last couple of years that I've been finding more and more, what's the right word? Kind of affirmations of my intuition.
Yes.
And so, like I said, just continuing to try to trust and to listen and to differentiate between what is actual intuition versus anxiety or wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Right. And to try to learn what how those feel different.
Yeah.
That's a process I'm on as well, that I'm still not, I think some of those things will probably be lifelong journeys.
Well, I feel like, I mean, and maybe this is true or not, but I feel like, and I've said this before, but intuition comes from the soul, which is not 3D, right? It's eternal. Mm-hmm. So, and the 3D emotions that we attach to it as like, that get muddied up with it are anxiety, fear, doubt, all those things. And none of those are all 3D emotions. Those are all physical emotions, brain emotions, ego emotions, trying to keep this body alive. The soul doesn't have to worry about being alive. It's never ending. It's, but the body transition is fragile. The body can, die. So in order to keep the body alive, we have fear, we have anxiety, we have all these other things. So whenever the intuition is mixed in with fear or anxiety, that's not intuition.
Right.
It's always calmer, quieter, detached.
Neutral.
That word neutral. That word trust is huge though, too. Is like you have to be quiet enough to trust.
Yeah.
So I like that you keep saying that, because you need the trust. You need to be able to trust, because we all have it. We all have it. But we got to trust it when it comes up. Listen for it and then trust it when it comes up.
Yeah. Yeah, I had an experience about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, where I had a friend who, one of the women in that initial professional astrology mastermind.
Oh, yeah.
I'd never met her in person, but I would definitely consider her a friend because, and there was some conversation about trying to get together in person, and we were planning something for a few months in advance. And I sent her a message one day, and I said, I think we're looking at this weekend. Do you think you can come out here? And that kind of thing. And I sent it off, and I just got a totally neutral. Yeah. Oh, she's not going to be there for that. It was like just completely neutral. There was no worry. There was no anything like that. And a couple of months later, because the plan would have been like 4 or 5 months out. But a couple of months later, unfortunately, very tragically, she passed. And when that happened, it was such a the reason I bring this up is because when I had that initial oh, she won't be there was no fear, anxiety, anxiety or worry attached to it at all. Because I was just oh, she's not going to make it. It just was a sense of she won't be able to make it that weekend or whatever. I wasn't worried about it. But and again, that was almost 2 years ago, but that was one of those first real, as I said, affirmations. Of oh, there was something. I was picking up on something about her absence for that get together weekend. So it's just, that was one of the first big ones that I could, recognize the difference between that neutrality. And then, just being anxious about something or worried about something happening.
Do you feel that now that you've kind of, and two questions. So one, did you have a spiritual journey that led you to astrology, or is astrology kind of the beginning of your spiritual journey? Do you feel?
It's so, it's a complicated. I think that astrology, in a lot of ways, has led me to my spiritual journey. And also, I think I've always been on it. I can look back as a teenager. I remember very specifically 2 experiences around, I must have been 14 or 15 when my first grandparent passed away. And there were 2 experiences that I had that you could not tell me otherwise. I'm convinced that I was sent angels to help me through the process of losing my grandfather, clear as day. And it was just brief passing moments of a person who happened to be where I needed them at that moment to provide comfort in a certain way. And so there's been that as you get older and you become an adult and you're living life, it's I feel like I kind of forgot about that. But also dance for me was always spiritual. It was always, it was so many things. It was my form of exercise and my community and my income and my, form of artistic expression, but it was always my connection to the ephemeral. In itself, as a performative art, it's ephemeral. And if you could say it, you wouldn't dance it. So it's there's always been this aspect of the unexplainable or the connection to something divine when you're out there on a stage. You're an actress, right? So there's that sense of, I'm getting off topic, but I was actually going to ask about this. There's always been an aspect of the spiritual journey that's been
part of you,
integral, to me. And actually the period of time between when I basically stepped away from the dance community, when my my last performance was when I was 8 weeks pregnant with my oldest child. And I kind of dipped my toe back in to do some choreography and stuff like that after my kids were born. But that was basically like when I really stepped away to start growing my family. And that period of, I would say, of about 7 years when I wasn't dancing really, and I hadn't yet found astrology, I really was like, I felt such a void. And I tried things I thought, oh, maybe I'll go to a Unitarian church or something, but it just like nothing. So I really did feel that lack. So to answer your question in a really long way, it's definitely astrology has started a journey for me or maybe the word is reinvigorated or given a new look, but it's a journey I've always been on in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. I firmly believe all artists are on a spiritual path. I believe everyone's on a spiritual path, but artists, the path of being an artist is a spiritual one because there's ups and downs and you got to figure out ways to get through it and to find peace and move forward and let go. And, you know, it's all the things that go on the spiritual path too. But what I was going to ask about that was, do you feel like your intuitive sensibilities have kind of, or this confirmation, this affirmation that you're continuing to get, these synchronicities, if they're in these little voices, are they coming up more because and from when you got into astrology, not because of, but like as you've reconnected to your spirituality or astrology?
Yes. I mean, absolutely. 100%, I think. And you know, this may sound strange, but I think because for me, astrology was such a way of, like starting as most of us do with our own charts, you know, like that's how we
like how does
into astrology is like starting to like delve into our own charts and what it says about me and all of that. But there was such a sense of peace and in the self-reflection and then like first it's self-reflection and then it's self-awareness and then it becomes self-acceptance of like these, like, I think for so long I felt like, oh gosh, my interests are not the ones that are like, I'm not good at what I'm supposed to be good at. I'm not, you know, like I'm not, society is the things that I feel called to are not the things that are valued by society. I mean, hello, artist and astrologer, like, but,
absolutely.
And so I kept trying to like shooting on myself and telling myself like I need to fit into this category. But then once I started to get into astrology and I saw in my chart, like I'm not supposed to be good at those things. Like these are supposed to be my gifts. And that allowed for this, this new self-acceptance that then allowed for me to start listening more to, and instead of negating so much. And so I think
wouldn't it be great if I could just have like a little like chart thing, like, you know, just be like, look, my chart says I'm not supposed to do this. So you can't pick me.
Yeah.
Exactly. This isn't in my wheelhouse. See? It's in my wheelhouse and it's not in there.
Yeah. It's not in there. And that's okay. There's other people for whom that's the right thing to do. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I think that the internal, like, the lessening of the self-negation allowed for more of the of those things coming online. Yeah.
Specifically, let's talk about that. So what in your chart do you see that shows you, like we had talked and said that, you know, other people have looked at it and you know that like people, you're highly intuitive or even psychic, and I have a weird feeling about the word psychic.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it exists, but I always feel like there's so many different variables that could happen in any given moment.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway, so, but I guess that's the same with the chart too, right? So like there's all these different possibilities of how the soul can navigate in this, you know, 3D sculpture
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is the chart.
Mm-hmm.
But there are points like please correct me if I'm wrong, because this is like, I'm testing my understanding now, but like the nodes, the fate nodes and things, there are some fated events that will happen, maybe not specifically the same way in every scenario, but points of action that have to happen within the chart. Does that make sense? Am I making sense of that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there are, one of the phrases that people use is the natal promise. And it's like there can be, myriad, infinite different circumstances.
Yeah.
But there's some kind of archetypal theme, archetypal experience that will show up, and again, the circumstances could be, there's all different ways that those could show up, but yes.
So getting back to that question, sorry, I went way off tangent, but the question is, what is it in your chart that, that resonated for you, that made you go, okay, this is the right path for me. This makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I am a Pisces rising, and a lot of people say the water signs in general, which are Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. Well, one thing that they used to say about the water signs were that they are mute, which means they're not verbal, they're feeling. They're emotional. And so a lot people say that the water signs are very intuitive. Like Pisces tends to be kind of energetically and emotionally porous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I am a Pisces rising. I have a Cancer moon. So I have a water moon that's very, again, there's that womb knowing that it's not psychic in a premonitory sense, but it's a very like intuitive feeling, somatic intuition. And then I have a pretty close, like very close conjunction between Mercury, which is the planet of the mind, and Uranus, which is the kind of planet of lightning strike ideas, and in Scorpio. So I have those in the 9th house, which is the house associated with astrology and divination. So I have I do have all of that water element, that I think for me, and I also have, my sun in Sagittarius it's wide, but conjunct Neptune. So I do have some Neptune contact, which Neptune is the planet associated with dreams and fantasy and spirituality, and all of that is connected to my sun as well. So I do have a chart that there's, but that being said, there's all different ways that you can find intuition or psychic abilities, or and well, partly because, as we both have said, we think we all have this. We are all intuitive, right?
It's just, where is it showing up and how? Like, how does it express itself?
You can find it in a lot of different ways. A lot of people say if they have strong placements in fourth house, 8th house, 12th house, because those are kind of liminal space houses, or well, the 4th isn't so much liminal, but it's private. It's that kind of occult space down there. Water moons, I think in particular, or there's or Neptune contacts on the ascendant or something like that,
Yeah, I think I also have the Neptune on the ascendant.
Yes.
Right next to, in Sag,
actually. Yes. Which is a very, spirited sign. It's an instinctual, in the way that fire is, because Sagittarius is a fire sign. Yeah. In that sense, like it's inspired and instinctual kind of intuitive sign. So there's lots of ways that you can see it in people's charts. I think those are probably the big ones for me, is my my water placements and my sun Neptune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you see and you read someone's chart, what is it that like, I'm on this kick right now with this word special spark, because I feel like we all have our little special spark, that thing that gives us joy, like the little light within our hearts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Makes you feel like a kid and want to skip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So what is the special spark that you get when you read someone's chart?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think it would be different for everyone.
But the process of it, I mean.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? Like, is it something along like, I'm just curious, like, is it the connecting with them? Is it helping kind of empower them into their possibilities? Is it helping them trust everything they're already feeling and know instinctually?
Yeah.
Intuitively, or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there is a, when I'm meeting with someone, generally it's on like there's certain questions or topics that they want to focus on. So that's going to draw my mind and eye to different places based on what the question is.
Yeah.
But I think there's something in listening. There's something in listening to what they're saying and hear, like listening for the archetype. Adam in his third year class we do several lectures on there's one about finding the snake. So there's different ways of referring to it. Like, what is that? What is the thing? So it's in hearing something. It's like hearing the story, the archetype of the story.
Yeah.
When they're speaking. And then one of my main goals, I'm not, like I have a couple of colleagues who are astrologers who are also kind of like coaches, like you are a coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think of myself as a coach so much as a, like one of my main goals is in that validation, is in just hoping that someone feels seen. So I think that's, for me, that's what it is listening for the archetypes, listening for what the nugget is, what that, and then trying to apply it to the symbols that are speaking in the chart so that they feel validated and seen. And then again, like, to have a similar experience like I had, where there's that self-acceptance of whatever it is. I don't know if I'm answering your question at all, but this is like,
you totally are.
I think that's what it is that it's in listening and then trying to validate and reflect back.
Letting them feel seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel the same way about when I do just a reading. If someone doesn't want the coaching, like, that's the thing. It's like when people feel seen, it's like, that to me is like the special spark that feels so good, to feel, for them to feel so good, that feels really yummy.
Yeah.
If you, okay, here's another question. If you would say like one thing that may help someone kind of, because there's a lot of information out there on astrology now. Right. And what might be one nugget if somebody is kind of curious about astrology right now and using their intuitive voice within it? What would you recommend that either they look at or explore to kind of feel how and where their intuitive voice might be best heard?
I think being discerning. Like listening for if what you're hearing, reading, seeing is very sensational or very like provocative, like in the titles or the what's getting you to click on it, and it is, like you said, kind of starting to actually create anxiety
Yes.
Or almost, I think for so many of us, myself included, I am not counting myself out of this, but especially after the 2020, a lot of us felt this kind of addiction to like drama, to like, like, oh, what's
anxiety.
the next addiction to the feeling of like,
Fear.
but I think to be discerning, if that is what you're feeling and what you're hearing is always sensational, it's like every transit is going to be like world changing and life changing.
Like, it's like, how can we have that? I guess I know there's a lot of big astrology this year, but like everyone's like, this is the time we're going to the new earth. I'm like, we're like, what? Like tomorrow it's going to be a different world outside? No.
Yeah. So I think listen for that. If that's what you're hearing, then maybe that's not the way you want to pursue, keep going down that road, because it's just, it is kind of fodder for anxiety or for just kind of revving up your nervous system, I think. So on the other side of that, I think just listening to different people. If you find, or reading different books, I listen to podcasts, but I don't read. I have like 8,000 astrology books that I've started and haven't finished, but listening and then finding the ones that you resonate with, and then pursue them. Like for some people, Hellenistic astrology it's too formulaic, or it's too, it's not their thing. But then if you listen to someone who's an evolutionary astrologer, like Ari Moshe Wolf is an incredible evolutionary astrologer. Like just listen to the people that you resonate with, and then follow that lead. Again, it's like listening to your intuition, and also give yourself time and space to let things be absorbed, because it is like a huge new language, and there's a lot of pieces of information. It can feel overwhelming. So to give yourself grace that you're not going to be able to absorb it all and like learn this whole, I think this is going to be a lifelong study for me. I'm always going to be learning more about it. So don't like be hard on yourself if it's not sinking in, because it will sink in. That piece of it will, when the time is right. So I think I would say that. But then obviously, I'm biased. I think if you are looking for a Hellenistic school, Adam Allenboss at Nightlight Astrology is like, he's doing something really special out there, especially with still teaching all of his classes live himself, which is like such a generous gift of his time. So many teachers, they record their lectures, which is great too,
Right.
But he's still actually in the classroom space with you live, which is amazing. Yeah.
Emily, how can people get a hold of you if they want a reading or?
There's a couple of different ways. I am one of the alumni readers for Nightlight Astrology's new affordable reading service. So you can book a reading with me through that. If you go to nightlightastrology.com and you go to the book a reading tab, I'm there. Or you can go to my website, emilytatomer.com. I'm also on Instagram at Emily T Astrology, and I've been kind of putting a few of just the same reels that I do on Instagram up on YouTube, but that I need to kind of launch YouTube. But when I do, that will also be Emily T Astrology on YouTube.
Wonderful.
As well. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
I
love talking to you.
I just talk to you all day. I love it.
I
love it. And it's very like astrology, obviously you feel like is an intuitive medium.
Yeah. It's divinatory.
Not always. And I feel like there's so much of it now that, it's hard to discern what's the fear-based, sensationalized astrology and what is just truly resonating with your intuition.
Yeah.
in the astrology structure, or the structure of astrology. Anyway, so thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
I will put all your stuff in the notes so people can find you. And
Yeah.
I will talk to you soon.
Okay. This was fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, I know. It's so much fun. All right. Take
Okay.
care. Bye.
Bye.